Hey there, viewers. Deli here, and welcome to the Delicroix Design. I'm Delicroix, and this is a series where I put a video game on the screen. In this case, Katamari Damacy Reroll. You'll be listening to Lonely Rolling Star in the background, and I really wish I could turn it up higher because it's just an awesome fucking song. But, you know, gotta be able to hear me talk because that's sort of the point of this series. While there's a video game on the screen, my face is also on the screen. And I talk about stuff. I talk about the design of my mind, the way I think, my thought processes on certain things, and just my feelings. So today, we're going to be talking about, weirdly, a topic that I'm pretty passionate about. Because I don't know why I'm passionate about it. I think it's passion out of spite. You know, it's something that pisses me off and something that I've experienced and that I hate knowing that other people have to experience. So for whatever reason, I have strong feelings about it. And that is warehouse jobs and production jobs, factory jobs, that sort of field. And I'm not passionate about that type of work, obviously. I don't like working in that type of job. And many of you know that. I used to work at a Target distribution center, food distribution center to be specific. And I hated it so much. It was awful. I would never go back there. Even though, yeah, I did think about it a couple times when I was like really hard up for cash. But I know I couldn't do that to myself. So we're going to talk today about kind of why I hated it so much and exactly what I think the fundamental flaws are with this type of workplace. Now, to start, quick overview. I understand that not everybody understands exactly what a warehouse or production factory sort of work entails. So let's talk about that very quickly. I know a lot of you do, though, so we'll be brief. A warehouse job is, there's a warehouse somewhere that provides all the goods for a store or a company in general. So Walmart, Kroger, Target, places like that. They have to get their food and they have to get their products from a certain location. So there's one big, essentially a store, you could think of it as, that has everything in it, and then they put those on trucks and send them out to the smaller places, the actual retail locations. And that's exactly how a distribution center works now. Think about the same thing for production. Things have to be made somewhere, so there's factories, there's plants, general places like that. So, now you know what it is. We're going to move on now and talk about why people are drawn to these jobs. Why do people like to work these jobs in the first place? Number one reason, pretty much at all. I doubt anybody really thinks to themselves, I want to work in a warehouse. That's my dream. And no, I highly doubt that. But maybe some of you do. So, I mean, if that is you, then I'm not judging you. But I'm very surprised. No offense. The reason people generally work these jobs is because there is a low skill ceiling, a high turnover rate, and decent pay. So it's hard to find a job that pays well without you needing to have a skill set, a degree, some sort of trade that you've trained in. And a lot of times, any jobs that are like that are going to be taken. Now, the problem is a lot of people don't like working these jobs, so the turnover rate is very high, or they suck at the jobs. Yet again, they get fired, so that's causing a high turnover rate. So, you have a lot of people who aren't skilled that decide to work in these jobs. The issue is these jobs have a very high expectation of their employees. And this is sort of starting to segue into my problems with these workplaces and why I think that there is a huge flaw in the system. Now, we'll start off by saying, when I say team, when I just mention the word team, what is the first thing that you think of? More than likely, you're thinking of a sports team. You're thinking of some sort of competitive environment. And so I want you to keep that in mind moving forward and sort of think about what exactly a team's role is. Now, in the case of sports, the whole point of a team is to be the best at what they're doing, to beat another team. So both teams have a similar goal in mind, but they want to reach that goal better than another team. So just keep that in mind moving forward. When you apply to these jobs, usually you're going to take some sort of assessment online. You're going to take like an assessment that judges your character in the most roundabout, shitty way it possibly can. And then when they interview you, they're going to ask you a lot of questions that are similar to what you saw in the assessment, except, a little more depth. They're asking for specific examples, things like that. And one thing that they're always looking for is a team player. These places always want you to be someone who can work with others, who can do it well, and who is not afraid to either take charge or be taken charge of. Now, this isn't a problem in most workplaces. I think that this is fine. This is actually healthy. And I like the idea of working in a workplace where I get to work with people, especially people who I enjoy working with, someone who would be an enjoyable co-worker and who doesn't like friends, essentially. The problem is, when you start working at these places, that is their expectation, is that you are able to work on a team. And then, when you get trained on your job, in the case of many of these places, you hop onto a piece of power equipment, or you take off into a big line, and you keep to yourself and you do your job. You're not working with anybody. Okay, that's fine. They should have an expectation that you know how to work with people, even if you don't necessarily have to. But then they tell you, we want you to do your job a certain way at a certain speed. We want you to go fast, brother. And so this is the biggest flaw. This is where I feel the biggest issue is with most of these production and warehouse environments, is they give you something called productivity. They give you an efficiency factor. They want you to hit a certain number while you're working. So in the case of Target, there was a certain section of the warehouse where you had to pick about 230 cartons per hour. It's hard to sort of quantify that to somebody who hasn't worked in that position, but I'm sure a lot of you are hearing that number and you're like, what the fuck? Especially if you've worked a job like this. It's a lot. It's very fast. You have a lot of things to do and you have to be on it. Now, when they give you this number, like I said, when you're given a number, you think about a goal, and by telling you that you have this goal, you want to be better than another team. The problem is there is no other team. The other people who are doing and working towards a similar goal are supposed to be on your team. But instead, you get these people who have very competitive mindsets, and they are working against their own team and trying to show them up and trying to be assholes, even though you're working towards the same end. And so you get a very, very toxic, cancerous work environment where people treat each other like shit because they're not going fast enough, or because I'm faster than you, or that sort of mentality. There's nothing, it seems stupid that they even ask you at the start whether or not you work on a team. They should instead make sure that you don't give a fuck about your employees and you don't want to work with them towards a common goal. You want to be better than them, because you bet your ass they're going to bring up your numbers and compare you to other people who you work with, and they're going to say, well, you know, Chad, he picked way more than you did earlier in this shift. What happened to you? And you're like, well, I'm not Chad. Sorry. And I'm definitely not Chad, in case you guys couldn't tell. I need to get to the gym soon. The other issue that comes with this is this is pretty much my biggest gripe with these locations, or this type of industry, is that they have very contradictory expectations. And the problem is these places always put forth the mentality that they live, breathe, and shit safety. Like it is the core of their values. And the biggest problem with that is that, think about the exact opposite of safety. So think about when you're trying to be very, very safe. Say there's a massive snowstorm outside and you're trying to make sure that you are not going to wreck and die. What do? You slow down. You take it slow. You avoid going fast. And if you're going to go fast, and if somebody says, well, in this snowstorm, we want you to maintain 80 miles an hour at all times, all right? You're probably going to eat shit and die. That's just the stark reality of it, right? Probably. So, they give you these production numbers, but they also tell you that safety is the key. You have to be as safe as possible, but we want you to go pretty fast. And I'm not necessarily saying that production numbers shouldn't be a thing or that there shouldn't be an expectation of performance when it comes to work, because you do have to hold people accountable. People are shitheads and they're going to work slowly if they get the chance to, or they're just going to do fucking nothing if they get the chance to. And that's not right. People, you need to earn your keep, essentially. But I think that giving these massive numbers, like I said, 235 some, I can't tell you the amount of times that I went home with a miserably sore back, or I tweaked something, or pinched something, or I bumped into something on my power equipment, things like that, trying to meet these goals. We had one girl who fell victim to this toxic environment because she started, and let's be real, girls, for the most part, probably aren't going to be as good at these type of jobs because it's miserable manual labor as dudes are. And these dudes, who were pretty good at it, were just always talking shit to her. And then finally the managers got on her and were like, hey, you need to pick up the pace. You're getting out of your probation period, and we don't want to have to write you up for your numbers. And she started rushing. She was asking people questions about how to go faster, about better techniques, blah, blah, blah. And she was trying her best to figure this shit out. And she got terribly, life-changingly hurt. And I think that is the truest testament to exactly how fucked up and backwards the mentality is there. And this is the case at many places like this. I'm not saying it's, of course, 100% across the board, but it is similar in a lot of places. And that is my biggest issue with warehouse, production, factory environments as a whole. If you're working in one of these places, I hope it's different. I do hope you can tell me in the comments, like, nah, man, luckily it's not like that here. If you are in that type of place, then I'm sorry, and I really hope that you do manage to get out of there. No one deserves to work in that sort of environment. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you hanging out. If you enjoyed this, I'd appreciate you kicking up your feet and sticking around for some more. And as always, I'll see you next time. Hopefully soon.